Coming in at number 10 today is the Asgardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy never used to be the most popular team until the MCU brought them to theaters, and now almost everyone knows of the Guardians. But what most people don't know about is the Asgardians of the Galaxy. The Asgardians of the Galaxy were a team of Asgardian and Earthbound Asgardian related misfits assembled by the hero Angela secretly on behalf of Kid Loki. The team consisted of Thunderstrike, aka Kevin Masterson, the son of the original Eric Masterson Thunderstrike, who once stood in for Thor in the 90s, Scourge the Executioner, the guy obsessed with Enchantress, Throg, yes that is the frog version of Thor, who is normally chilling out on a lily pad in Central Park, and Valkyrie along with her human host Annabelle Riggs. Now pulled together in a tie-in to the 2018 Infinity Wars event, their objective was to help Kid Loki retrieve the Naglfar beacon in anticipation of the upcoming War of the Realms waged by Malekith the Accursed. This put them into conflict with Nebula, who was using the beacon to lead an army of undead gods to bring about another Ragnarok. And if that sounds awesome, it's because it is.
And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not consider clicking that subscribe button? Number 9, Stormwatch. I just found out this today, but apparently when it comes to DC, there are actually a few different teams known as Stormwatch. Did you know that? One of them is actually a magic-based team, which is probably even less known than the one I'm going to talk about. If we get to a part 3, I'll tell you about that one. However, I figured Stormwatch from Wildstorm was still less known in comparison to stuff like, the Justice League, when we're talking DC. Who is Stormwatch in the Wildstorm universe before they came to DC? Well, initially this was a team created by Jim Lee under his imprint, where he set out to create his own characters, which is different from what happens when you as a creator make things for DC and Marvel, where they basically retain the rights to everything you make. For Jim Lee, this proved to be a profitable choice, as DC even later offered to buy Wildstorm from him. So he not only got to do, everything on his own, which he got to own, but then also due to Wildstorm's success, he also got to sell the imprint back to DC after and make money on that deal, which is pretty great. That's some of the historical context for Stormwatch in regards to the imprint, but in regards to the canon history for this team, Stormwatch was initially brought together to basically combat alien incursions. The team, however, has been disbanded and reformed multiple times, and they've also been known as a different name, one that might even be on this list. Prominent members have included Backlash, Jackson King, Jenny Sparks, Henry Bendix, Winter, multiple versions of Diva, Fahrenheit, Apollo, Midnighter, Synergy, Nautica, and Deathblow, to name a few. Later on, this team would be rebranded as something else that we'll talk about in a bit.
Number 8, the Champions of Los Angeles. The Champions were the first West Coast-based superhero team. They formed like all great superhero teams do, with several heroes happening to just meet by chance against one great threat. In this case, that threat took the form of the Greek god of death, Pluto. The group consisted of 2 former X-Men, Angel and Iceman, the Greek god of strength Hercules, who I swear is underappreciated, Johnny Blaze, the original Ghost Rider, and the Russian spy Black Widow, who became this team's leader. After defeating Pluto, the Champions of Los Angeles, or just the Champions, decided to stick together as a team. Warren Worthington III, aka Angel, was the wealth behind the team. They bought their own Quinjet and named it the Champ Jet, which I find hilarious because over time, the members of this team started to become embarrassed by the team, with both Iceman and Angel calling it an embarrassment and a nightmare because they had no idea what they were doing, apparently. But still, they had a few more adventures working with X-Force, and they had some additions to the roster with Black Goliath, who aided the team in scientific endeavors from time to time, and another Russian female hero, Darkstar, who was originally there to capture Black Widow, but changed sides instead.
Number 7, Blue Lanterns. You've heard of Green Lanterns, maybe you've even heard of Yellow Lanterns, or Red Lanterns, or Black Lanterns, but how about Blue Lanterns? Blue Lanterns have only made a few appearances in the new continuity, and even before that, during the New Earth days of DC, they weren't necessarily the most frequent to appear. Mainly, I feel like people know Green Lanterns, whose color represents willpower. To be a Green Lantern, you must be strong in will. To be a Blue Lantern, though, you must be full of hope, strong in hope. If Green Lanterns are like the intergalactic police, Blue Lanterns are kinda like, I guess, the therapists or the peacekeepers, or maybe the priests. that's accurate based on their naming. They have long been allies to the Green Lanterns, and their powers actually provide a boost to fellow Green Lanterns when they are nearby. This is because their whole focus is on belief and hope, having faith in those around them. As such, many of their names start with titles like Saint, Sister, or Brother. Number 6. Hellions. While they were recent, the fact remains that the Hellions were a pretty short-lived team. Now, if you're new to the channel, first of all, hello, welcome in, happy to have you. As I said, click the subscribe. And also, you probably aren't familiar with the Hellions. Those who have been here for a while, regardless of whether they read the book or not, will know the team I'm talking about though, because I do like to talk about them. Sure, there might be many out there who know of Emma Frost's Hellions team in their striking pink suits, but how many know about Nathaniel Essex, aka Mr. Sinister's Hellions team? Sounds like it should be a villain team again, right? Well, oddly enough, it isn't. This team was made up of the rejected members of Krakoan Mutant Society, who were put together on their own team with the hope of rehabilitating the mutants and helping them to find a place in society, while also allowing more put together mutants to keep a kind of a closer eye on them, I guess. Minus Mr. Sinister, who they did put in charge of this team for some reason. Goodness. This was also at a time where pretty much all mutants were kind of considered to be like good. However, I still feel like letting Sinister run this team was a huge oversight. That is part of the reason that I wanted to read the series though, and I was honestly not disappointed with this series. The team includes Quanon as Psylocke, Havoc, Wildchild, Nanny, Orphan Maker, John Greatcrow, and former Hellion Empath. The team only lasted as long as their series, and afterward they disbanded, and it was really sad. Number 5. Capes Inc. Capes Inc. is another superhero team from the same world as Invincible. In fact, as early on as issue number 8 of the Invincible series, you can see some of their members featured in the background. Not only that, but they also ended up getting their own spin-off comic as well, although I believe it only lasted like a few issues, 3 I think to be exact. The series centered initially around Bolt, who welcomes a new recruit to the team as his partner. The team is more like a business and kind of seems to operate like kind of like a superpowered police station or office. It's like Bolt has this partner and they drive around and like fight crime. People even get paid and everything. Kid Thor is the new kid in town who ends up joining with Bolt. Bolt, we learned, originally actually wanted to be known as Black Samson, but obviously that name was already taken by the Guardians of the Globe hero. Oh man, there's just so many little bits in this that are pretty hilarious. Number 4. A-Force. A-Force is a team that I love, but not one that many people talk about, I find. I feel like a lot of people forget that this happened. It's probably because, you know, we haven't seen A-Force in some time, but when they were around, they were pretty great, but also quite short-lived. Even more so than the Hellions. A-Force at least appeared in a few other comics other than their own series, but they had a considerably shorter run for their own series, despite their team honestly being really stacked and it sounding like, I don't know, just sounded like a really great team. I'm surprised it didn't go longer. Members included She-Hulk, who led the team, Captain Marvel, Dazzler, an alternate reality version of Dazzler who is Thor, Nico Minoru, Singularity, and Queen Medusa. Number 3. God Squad. God Squad was one that I was hoping to see a nod to in Thor Love and Thunder. I was hoping that when we went to Olympus, we might get a peek at some version of this team. Maybe not one for one, but it could have been cool to see the team acknowledged with maybe even a different take on it. I just really love the name, God Squad. This was a group of heroes and gods who were assembled to fight against the Skrull Pantheon, brought together by Athena. The team included Hercules as leader, Circe and Ajax of the Eternals, Thor, Silver Surfer, Galactus, Venus, Amadeus Cho, Snowbird, what would that hero be? Just someone that snowboards, I guess. Amadeus Cho, Snowbird, Amatsu Mikaboshi, and Atom. Number 2. Justice League Queer. Justice League Queer has made fewer appearances than I have fingers on this here hand. They're less of a superhero group and more of a support group for other prominent superheroes who are queer. And honestly, I kinda love that. Although I'm sure they do still team up and fight crime. But they're also mainly about advocating for LGBTQIA+ rights. This team made their first appearance in the 2021 issue of DC Pride. They also popped up in 2023 DC Pride and in a holiday special as well. The team or group is led by Extraño, a powerful magic-based superhero who was the first out and proud Soup. He created the group to make sure others out there never felt alone as he had initially, and I love it. Number 1. 6. You might have heard of the Krakoan 5, but do you know of the Six. The Six, or just Six, are a team of primarily teleportation-based mutant heroes who were recruited by Abigail Brand to be part of her new mutant-based sword team, when that was a thing. While the team is called the Six, there are actually more than 6 members. The Six refers to the core members, who are the teleportation-based mutants, while the other members are also integral to the mission statement of the team, which is all about further expansion and exploration of the possibilities of mutant technology. The team has included Abigail Brand, Magneto, Manifold, Armor, Cora of the Burning Heart, WizKid, Peeper, Fabian Cortez, Risque, Gateway, Lila Cheney, Blink, Amelia Vaught, and Vanisher. The team also has backup members on call in case they need to swap folks out as well, especially for teleporters. Which, to be fair, there are a lot of mutant teleporters, so that makes sense.
At number 10 is Carnage and the Joker. Sounds like absolute chaos. As the Marvel and DC universes converged, the plot unfolded with a certain unnaturalness as Dr. Cassandra Breyer's audacious attempt to pacify these two malevolent menaces using microchips took an ominous turn when Carnage, the symbiote psychopath, effortlessly short-circuited the implant. Meanwhile, the Joker, not to be outdone, suffered a similar fate. This nightmarish duo then embarked on an unaliving spree, with their unholy union a brief affair. However, there was a clash between them, driven by differing philosophies on eliminating people, which culminated in an epic showdown with Batman and Spider-Man. You see, Joker was all about having a plan, and Carnage was like, screw that, let's just cause chaos, and apparently, their different philosophies didn't coalesce. Carnage and the Joker's inability to cooperate, while expected, was a fortunate twist, preventing unimaginable catastrophe. I mean, had these two serial unalivers coordinated, countless lives would have been lost to their chaotic malevolence. At number 9 is the Leader and the One Below All. Comic world has witnessed some spine-tingling team-ups, but few saw the nightmarish alliance between the Hulk's arch-nemesis, the Leader, and the malevolent cosmic entity known as the One Below All. The Jade Giant, who's known for smashing his way through the MCU, has transformed into a true horror icon in the comics thanks to the masterful storytelling in Immortal Hulk. Enter the One Below All, which is a sinister, demonic force that Samuel Stearns, the brilliant but deranged leader, willingly submits to. His aim is to obliterate not only the Hulk, but the entire world, morphing it into a grotesque Cronenberg-esque nightmare. The unholy partnership has taken the Hulk's adversaries to a whole new level of terror, creating a chilling narrative that keeps fans on the edge of their seats. If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. At number 8 is the Joker and the Violator. Okay, a Carnage and Joker crossover was cool and all, but how about the Joker working with a literal demon clown from Spawn, if you haven't guessed? Violator, an immortal servant of Satan with inhuman strength and fire-breathing abilities, now allies himself with the Joker in a multiverse-shaking partnership. Batman and Spawn, facing the Court of Owls, reluctantly seek Joker's help, only to discover that they've fallen into a trap orchestrated by the Joker and the Violator. The history of the Joker's unholy alliance suggests likely a monstrous transformation later down the road, but betrayal could also be on the horizon. As the two most feared clowns in comics unite, the questions arise about Joker's transformation under the Violator's influence and his ultimate strategy against such a potent source of evil.
Number 7, Avengers. I know what you're thinking. Amanda, what? I know the Avengers. How could you not know the Avengers in 2023? Well, it's possible that you're not thinking of the same Avengers team that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the Avengers from Earth 1610, the original Ultimates reality. You see, while the Avengers did actually exist there, this team was actually very different from the version that we know that hails from the MCU or even the comics main reality of Earth 616. The Avengers team here was kind of treated more like a version of the Suicide Squad. They only made about 23 appearances total, and the roster was very different from what you'd be used to when you think of the mainstay Avengers in the main continuity. I mean, some of the same names, but totally different people. The team roster has included Black Widow, but this Black Widow was Monica Chang, the ex-wife of Nick Fury, Gregory Stark, Tony's evil twin brother in this reality, the Punisher, Nick Fury, Red Wasp, Tyrone Cash, a super interesting character, you should look him up, an evil version of Spider-Man created by Gregory Stark in a lab known as the Spider, an imitation of Thor known as Perun, Hawkeye, and War Machine. Basically, they're kind of like a rougher imitation Avengers. Monsters.
Number 6, the Legion of Monsters. The Legion of Monsters is a team of monster-like characters who have vowed to protect other monsters like them that were hunted down to be killed or couldn't defend themselves. The team has consisted of characters like Shikla, Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider, Zombie, Elsa Bloodstone, Frankenstein's Monster, Man-Thing, Morbius, Satana, the Living Mummy, and Mamphibian, among others. Now, the original Legion of Monsters were united by chance when they each happened to investigate the appearance of a strange benevolent being called the Starseed, who came crashing to Earth. Starseed attempted to aid the monsters and cure them of their forms, even though, being monsters, they couldn't control themselves and attacked Starseed. Because of the fear they caused him, when Man-Thing touched him, he bit the dust, in Marvel Premiere number 28 from November 1975. One of the Legion's many missions included saving remaining monsters from the Hunter of Monster Special Force. They sent the monsters into the Morlock tunnels and started a monster metropolis where the monsters could live in peace. They are the group that saved Frank Castle the Punisher and turned him into Frankencastle.
Number 5, Teenage Kicks. You may have heard of this one thanks to the popular streaming series The Boys. It was the team that Popclaw from season 1 was on when she was a kid. The team is a parody of DC's Teen Titans and is a teenage superhero-based team that was managed by Vought International. In the comics, they have a somewhat larger role in the story, but are still considered pretty much minor antagonists.
Number 4, the Authority. The Authority is a team that not a ton of people know about now. They were really popular and cool, but this team is going to be joining the DCEU under James Gunn's reboot. So before everyone and their moms hears about them, let's talk about them here. Now, for starters, the Authorities are not strictly a DC team. They are part of the Wildstorm universe of Earth 30, which we did talk about earlier, I believe. Here, metahumans are a bit more in control. They have no qualms against removing human political leadership if they engage in initiatives that harm others. Now, the initial roster consisted of hyper-skilled tactician Midnighter, who is basically like insane Batman, the Superman-esque solar-fueled powerhouse Apollo, the Engineer, whose blood consists of microscopic nanites, the winged warrior woman Swift, Jack Hawksmoor, who draws superhuman abilities from cities, and the Doctor, a shaman connected to the energies of the Earth. Leading them was Jenny Sparks, the electrically powered spirit of the 20th century. Now, they came together to protect the world by any means necessary, and they proved that. The Authority often used lethal measures to defeat their enemies and weren't above causing collateral damage to do so. They were actually the basis behind the evil supervillain team, the Elite, that Superman faced in What's So Funny in Truth, Justice, and the American Way. But funnily enough, Superman even had his own version of the Authority team for a time.
Number 3, unofficial Dark X-Men. Well, the Dark X-Men were more of a thing during Norman Osborn's time in charge of the organization which replaced S.H.I.E.L.D., which he named Hammer during Dark Reign. There is also a new team of Dark X-Men that have appeared on the scene. Watch out, sound the alarms, new Dark X-Men. Although in the comics, they just go by the name of X-Men. There's no dark. But editorially, and in regards to the series they're featured in, they're known as the Dark X-Men, which is why I'm giving that name to them unofficially. This team is also known as the Limbo-based X-Men, as their team leader is Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, Jean Grey's once evil clone, and the current ruler of Limbo. Members include a Zero-possessed Albert, I love Albert, Emplate, Gambit, Feint, Havoc, Marrow, and Archangel. Although I think Archangel's no longer on the team right now.
Number 2, the Power Pack. The Power Pack were the 4 of Dr. James Power and Margaret Power. Now, their father, James, was in the process of creating an antimatter reactor that would supply the planet with clean energy, but also could potentially destroy the planet as well. On the night before the reactor was going to be tested, the 4 Power kids, Alex, Julie, Jack, and Katie, had a run-in with Alefire Whitemane, aka Whitey, who was a member of the alien race known as the Chimelians, and he had crash landed not too far from the Powers' home and was not doing too hot. He told the kids about another alien race known as the Snarks, who were after the antimatter technology in order to destroy other planets. Now, as he passed away, he bestowed powers on the 4 kids. Alex became Zero-G with the power to manipulate gravity, Julie became Lightspeed with the powers of flight and acceleration, Jack became Mass Master with the ability to control the density of the molecules of his own body, and Katie became Energizer with the ability to disintegrate an object and absorb the released energy into herself, using it to project power balls of force from her chest. Other than facing Emperor Jakal and the Snark species that he commanded, the Power Pack have teamed up with all kinds of heroes like Spider-Man, the X-Men, Cloak and Dagger, Devil Dinosaur, Gwenpool, Moon Girl, and Franklin and Valeria Richards in the Future Foundation.
Number 1. Queen's Vengeance. Queen's Vengeance is a reality-warped version of the Avengers. This team was created when Morgan Le Fay ended up attacking the Avengers. As they prepared to strike back against her, Morgan Le Fay warped reality and ended up making the Avengers into members of her court, many of them becoming part of her trusted guard, the Queen's Vengeance, because reality was warped so that it was like basically the Middle Ages. The only member of the Avengers who was not transformed by the reality warp was Scarlet Witch, who actually could not be controlled this way. Wanda was held as a prisoner as such in Morgan Le Fay's dungeon, but managed to use her powers to reach out to her fellow Avengers, breaking the spell over Captain America's mind. Cap then sought out the other members of the team, and they managed to all wake up and rebel against Morgan Le Fay, reverting reality back to normal.
In at 10, Legion of Super Pets. Okay, look, I know they had an animated movie and stuff, but like, come on. The Legion of Super Pets was a remarkable team comprised of extraordinary animal companions, okay? Among its members were Crypto the Super Dog, Streaky the Super Cat, and the inclusion of Wizzy. In pursuit of their ambitious plan to relocate Earth to their solar system, the otherworldly beings known as the Brain Globes of Rambat devised a strategy that hinged on defeating Superboy. Failing to gain control over him, they resorted to summoning Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad, and Saturn Girl from the future, who were members of the Legion of Superheroes. Under the mental command of the Brain Globes, this trio was compelled to capture Superboy, and then once he was subdued, the Brain Globes relinquished their hold over the Legionnaires. Recognizing that their power did not extend to animals though, the Legionnaires gathered Crypto, Streaky, Beepo, which was like from Superman's present, and Comet the Super Horse to confront their extraterrestrial adversaries. With the combined efforts of the pets, they triumphed over those and subsequently honored as the Legion of Super Pets, which was an animal division of the Legion of Superheroes. And then each pet was returned to their respective time periods, but like, come on, dude, what the hell? Who thought of this storyline? In at 9, X-Babies. The original X-Babies were a youthful incarnation of the X-Men, as you could probably guess, consisting of Nightcrawler, Storm, Wolverine, Rogue, Colossus, Shadowcat, Magneto, Longshot, and Psylocke. Mojo, the mastermind behind their de-aging, who is not a Powerpuff Girls villain, as I've been informed, had intended to dispose of them, but they were rescued by the New Mutants. During the X-Men's absence, in the Fall of Mutants event, Mojo sought to create replacement teams using Neoplasm, experimenting with various iterations such as gender-swapped and animal versions, but no more Legion of Super X animals here. But eventually, the X-Babies came into existence. However, Mojo soon deemed them a failed experiment and planned to eliminate them. Seizing that opportunity though, the X-Babies escaped, taking the pilot Ricochet Rita with them. Seeking refuge, the group found sanctuary within Mojo's crossover house, and in a fear of confrontation, they escaped to Earth 616. Unfortunately though, Rita was captured during their fight and covertly transformed into the agent set on a mission to apprehend the X-Babies. But yes, in the Mojo verse, there is a team of X-Men babies. Most of these are like a good dumb. It's like, it's dumb, but it's also good, but some the other ones are just like, why? And at 8, the Inferior 5. The Inferior 5 is basically DC making fun of the Fantastic Four, and you can trace their lineage back to the esteemed Freedom Brigade, a team of masked adventurers hailing from an alternate Earth, which is Earth 12, existing prior to the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. Following the retirement of the brigade, their children were reluctantly coerced into carrying on their legacy and utilizing their inherited abilities and powers. However, their commitment to the superhero vocation was lackluster at best. For almost 2 decades, Megalopolis enjoyed a period of peace, thanks to the Freedom Brigade's successful eradication of crime. But this tranquility was shattered when a new villain emerged, known as Dr. Gruesome. Mayor Boswell, faced with this newfound threat, called upon the retired members for assistance, but it was during this time that Patriot and Lady Liberty saw an opportunity to rally their former comrades and encourage their children to do their work for them. Taking up residence in the former headquarters of the Freedom Brigade, the 5 fledgling heroes embarked on a challenging journey to defeat Dr. Gruesome, albeit relying heavily on circumstance. Despite their initial victory, they soon discovered that their individual skills clashed and rendered them a remarkably ineffective team. So yeah, there you go. That's DC making fun of the Fantastic Four, just with an extra person. That's why it failed, because they had that one more person.
At number 7 is the Legion of Substitute Heroes, recommended by Bob Mathis Friedman 6742 and Aaron Malver 7452. These dudes were not the A-team, but the backup squad called the Legion of Substitute Heroes, which are a coalition of heroes who had been rejected from joining the Legion of Superheroes because their powers just didn't quite cut it. We're talking Polar Boy, Night Girl, Stone Boy, Fire Lad, and Chlorophyll Kid. Some kind of lame names, but they've all got some unique and albeit not so flashy abilities. Now, rejected but determined, they decided to form their own superhuman team. The group of rejects were finally able to prove themselves when Planet Man invaded Earth, as the main legion was off in space fighting against robot ships. These underdogs stepped in and saved the day, stopping the Planet Man invasion. And as it turns out, Captain Freeze had been behind all of this, using the androids and the Planet Man to overwhelm and distract the legion, while he tried to steal the mighty Shrink Ray. Now, Night Girl caught him in the act, and that planet went kaput. Despite starting undercover, the subs eventually got props from the real Legion. Sometimes being the backup team isn't so bad, as they proved themselves as legit heroes. At number 6 is the Cyber Force. Thank you to Kevin Murray 8803 again. This comic book showcased a group of mutants who faced off against Cyber Data, a massive corporation aiming for world domination. See, the mutants were once captive to Cyber Data and underwent experiments that gave them enhanced powers using cybernetic implants. When they broke free, they formed Cyber Force to thwart Cyber Data's evil plans. However, the Cyber Force comics faced criticisms for their similarities to Marvel characters, like Cyberblade's resemblance to Psylocke from the X-Men, for instance. Some readers also complained about the excessive violence and the portrayal of female characters, but despite these setbacks, Cyber Force tried to carve its place in the comic world, but gradually faded into obscurity. At number 5 is Cyforce. Thank you to the 1ZN1BD for this suggestion. Cyforce from Marvel Comics' new Universe series revolved around youngsters affected by the White Event that triggered paranormal abilities. Now, unlike typical superhero teams, these individuals lacked matching costumes, but faced similar challenges of being different and persecuted, kind of like the X-Men. Led by a CIA telepath, Cyforce's members struggled with internal conflicts, but united in times of need. They resonated with readers due to their relatable struggles and the absence of coordinated outfits, breaking away from the norm of superhero teams. Unique to Cyforce was their ability to form a powerful being, the Cyhawk, by combining their powers. This amalgamation significantly amped their individual abilities, showcasing their strength when working together. Despite their differences, these youths banded together, which is definitely necessary, seeing as their Hail Mary Hawk thing relies on their teamwork. At number 4 are the Lady Liberators. Thank you to Daniel Streeper 2318 for this one. The Lady Liberators are a fantastic bunch, debuting in Avengers number 83. They've got Scarlet Witch, the Wasp, Black Widow, Medusa, and they're led by Valkyrie / the Enchantress, which is total girl power. They actually stood up to the Avengers, calling them male chauvinist pigs back in the 70s. This team was a beacon for fans of strong female characters, basically the OG A-Force. It's like assembling the ultimate squad of heroines. These characters together packed a serious punch, and with their personality, they brought their own special skills to the table. They weren't afraid to challenge the status quo and fight for equality. At number 3 are the Great Lakes Avengers. Thank you to Bob Marthis Friedman again for this one. The Great Lakes Avengers, aka the Lightning Rods or the Champions, is a Marvel team formed by Mr. Immortal, who realized at one point that he couldn't perish away. He decided more heroes would help, so he found folks like Dinosaur, Big Bertha, Flatman, and Doorman. They also rejected Leather Boy because he didn't really have any powers, just a thing for leather. Anyway, this team was mostly used for comedy relief in the comics, as they weren't really taken seriously, but still managed to beat big baddies like Maelstrom and Gravitron. They're basically like the super team version of Squirrel Girl, mostly used for comic relief, yet insanely overpowered and underrated. Which I guess is why it made total sense for Squirrel Girl to eventually join the team, albeit only for a little while, because after single-handedly taking down huge villains like Dr. Doom and Thanos off panel, she split the team because she got lazy playing cards instead of fighting. At one point, even Deadpool hopped into this team, but he eventually got the boot because he was too annoying, which honestly is probably one of the main reasons reasons Deadpool doesn't stick around with any superhero team for long. At number 2 are the Creature Commandos, suggested by Glenn Morgan Fan 9411. These guys were once quite obscure, but they're back on track to becoming mainstream again thanks to James Gunn spearheading the animated series in the new DCU. These guys were a freaky team assembled during World War II by the US to scare the pants off the enemy, literally. It's basically a bunch of Universal's classic monsters mixed with superheroes. Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein, and other spooky beings are a part of this bizarre squad. In the DC Comics world, these creatures were reimagined as a team fighting in the war. The gang include Lieutenant Shreve, the leader, and a human among the monsters. Then there's the Boogeyman, a creature like the one in the Black Lagoon, and Dr. Medusa, whose name speaks for itself. But it doesn't end there. They also recruited a zombie, a dude powered by futuristic tech, and even a mummy. They're quite a lot more eerie than their usual superhero bunch. And coming in at number 1 is the Power Pack, recommended by Jonathan Pardo 6549. Thank you very much for your suggestion. Power Pack isn't your average superhero team. It consists of 4 siblings, Alex, Julie, Jack, and Katie, who all stumbled into their powers after their physicist father's invention attract the attention of battling alien races. It's pretty badass. These kids, gifted unique abilities by a dying alien, fought off evil snarks to save Earth, all while keeping their newfound powers a secret from their parents. Their adventures were guided by Friday, a super smart ship given by the same alien who granted their powers. At one point, even Franklin Richards, the son of Sue Storm and Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four, also joined the ranks, seeking a different life away from his superpowered family. Now what's cool is that unlike other teen teams like the X-Men, the Power Pack completely lacked an adult mentor, which proved to create a super unique dynamic. Each sibling possessed distinct powers, from gravity manipulation to high-speed flight, molecular density control, and energy absorption. Power Pack's influence birthed a slew of young Marvel heroes, but their return is eagerly awaited to see how they blend in with the new teen heroes in Marvel's universe.
Number 10. Sisterhood of the Sleight Hand. Sisterhood of the Sleight Hand has only made a few appearances in the comics, so they're not as much of a superhero team as they are, I guess, a collective of witches, but I feel like most of the witches are good among them, or at least neutral, so I figured it would be safe to count them. Also, I believe in general as a group they're a force of good, so even those that are part of the group that aren't as good, the whole group is supposed to be good, okay? Prominent but still somewhat obscure members include Tracy 13, Enchantress, Manitou Dawn, and Witchfire. I love Witchfire. When will I get my Witchfire series? And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any good old nerdy content? I know there's a lot of people out there that don't subscribe, so if that's you, I'm talking to you. Number 9. Justice League Dark. Everyone's heard of the Justice League, but who the heck is Justice League Dark? And why do they sound like they're a supervillain team? Well, while their name might make them sound like they are up to no good, the opposite could not actually be more true. They are a more covert division of the Justice League, actually, an offshoot that primarily works in the shadows to help stop more unseen magic threats. In fact, when they saved the universe from Hecate's influence, the Justice League wasn't even aware of what was going on at the time, because Hecate just didn't want the Justice League to be aware of her, so they simply just weren't. And that was a threat to the entire universe, friends. They deal with threats that the Justice League honestly might be ill-equipped to face, and one of their members is actually a core member of the JLA team, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman initially acts as a team leader, and the team has included Zatanna, John Constantine, Detective Chimp, Dr. Fates, both Khalid Nazur, and also for a little while Kent Nelson, Madame Xanadu, Animal Man, Dead Man, Ragman, all the men, really, Etrigan and Jason Blood, and a slew of others who are more magically inclined. It's a big list, but that's some of them. Number 8. Exiles. The Exiles are probably the most potentially well-known of the ones that I've listed here, but if you are new to comics or more of a casual fan, this one for you will probably be something that you don't know about, which is why I put it here, because I want you to know. For those who don't know the Exiles, they're a super cool team with a long ongoing series. They're actually a multiversal superhero team made up of various alternate versions of superheroes from across the multiverse. Because anyone from any other Earth can be a member of the team, there are a lot of people who have been on the roster over the years, members who have come and gone or even died during their time on the team. The very first team to appear though in Exiles, the first roster that appeared in Exiles Volume 1, Issue Number 1 out of 2001, a lot of ones, featured a slew of alternate reality versions of characters, including an alternate version of Blink from Age of Apocalypse reality Earth number 295, Nocturne, the daughter of Scarlet Witch and Nightcrawler in an alternate reality, Thunderbird of Earth 1100, Mimic of Earth 12, an alternate version of everyone's favorite fun-loving mutant Morph from Earth 1081, and an alternate version of Magneto simply known as Magnus from Earth 27. So many cool multiversal folks.
At number 7 is the Maker's Council. Now, I know the Maker is typically seen as an evil Reed Richards, but the Maker's gang in this one has beef with Doctor Doom and Kang the Conqueror, so let's just say that this team is morally ambiguous, to say the least. I mean, the Maker here is pretty dark, but I mean, generally speaking, he's got humanity's best interest at heart, even if it comes at seriously grave cost. Anywho, in this reality, the world is split into 7 super states, and after conducting a variety of tests with iterations of experimental societies within his base of operations, the Maker grew convinced that enduring peace on Earth was unattainable due to humans' inherent nature. Yeah, I get it, dude, we're all a bunch of monkeys. As a result, he established a secret council composing of the leaders of each of the 7 territories, and together, they manipulated conflicts and alliances among their nations to unite their respective populations. So in the present day, the Eurasian Republic served as the designated rogue state that unified the other territories as a common foe, with the intention for this role to be rotated between each territory over time. So basically, it's George Orwell's 1984, except instead of Big Brother, it's the Maker. Pretty bleak, but hey, I guess if peace is unattainable, then controlled everlasting war is the next best thing? I don't know. At number 6 is the 13. Back in the 1940s, these guys were a mix of good and bad guys doing some morally ambiguous things. But then, bam! Time got all wonky thanks to Barry Allen and Dr. Manhattan messing around, and these 13 got wiped away from history. Now, lucky for them, the Time Masters stashed them away in these kind of snooze pods to keep them safe. But fast forward a little bit, and a dude named Per Degaton muddles things up again, and these pods go kaput. These 13 peeps pop back into history before everything's completely fixed. Now the kicker here is that 8 of them were sidekicks to the OG heroes from the Golden Age. They got snatched up by Childminder and chucked onto, get this, Orphan Island, a place somehow stuck outside of regular time. Then there was some epic showdown shenanigans. They team up with Stargirl, Red Arrow, Hourman, and beat the bad guys. But since they can't go back home to their old tie lines, Hourman zaps them to the present, and they become the Young Justice Society. At number 5 are the Thunderbolts. Not to be confused with the original team put together by Baron Zemo, this new squad emerged after the Outer Circle got taken down. When Bucky Barnes, who got all the Outer Circle secrets, teamed up with a person called Contessa Valentina Alguera de Fontaine, that's a name. But guess what? She wasn't the real one, she was actually a fake. And they decided to join forces and make a gang called the Thunderbolts to crush the Red Skull and his whole operation. The crew got bigger when they got on board the Destroyer and the Red Guardian for a mission to wreck Red Skull's base in Argentina. And long story short, they won, they took out the Red Skull's main body, and basically just wrecked the whole setup. At number 4 are the Super Kids. So the reason this team got together was because apparently they were too young to join the Teen Titans. It's definitely saying a lot. Now, their story is pretty wild. It all began when some bad guys tried to mess with time, trying to erase 2 of the core members, Animal Girl, and the Flash Twins before they could become heroes. But guess what? Backfired big time. Instead of erasing them, it brought them face to face with their future teammates, Robin and Superboy. And just like that, Super Kids were born. So let's break it down. We've got Animal Girl, also known as Maxine Baker, with her animal powers. Then there's Jai West as Surge and Ivory West as Thunderheart, the speedy Flash Twins. And of course, Robin and Superboy rounding out the squad. At number 3 is the Spider Society. There was no way I was going to make a video about new superhero teams without bringing up an entire collection of my favorite hero from across the multiverse, which made its debut in this year's Across the Spider-Verse movie. The Spider-Verse Society is led by Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, with this movie being his first cinematic debut. In fact, we got all kinds of Spider-Men who we were praying would make it to the big screen one day, from classics like Ben Reilly, Spider-Man's clone from the Clone Saga, to more obscure ones like Peter Parked Car. Love that. After surviving a universe-ending event, Miguel went around picking up Spideys from all over, their mission being to preserve the multiverse from any conceivable threat, all convening at Spider HQ on Earth 928, to which they travel to using their trusty little dimension-hopping watches. Because Spidey's a genius, don't forget. At number 2 is the Blood Syndicate. The Blood Syndicate, made up of former gang members from Dakota City, is no ordinary super team. They banded together to take down a menacing villain and then protect their turf, Paris Island. Each member had their own rough past, hailing from different gangs and areas of the city. But when this villain threatened to rule the criminal underworld with violence, these superhumans united against him. In their first standoff, the Blood Syndicate really did not do justice. They fought individually instead of working as a team, leading to their quick defeat and separation. However, Flashback, one of their own, took a bold step at traveling back in time to warn them about their impending loss. Now with this crucial knowledge, the Syndicate regrouped, launching a fierce coordinated attack, and this time they fought as a team, leaving the villain defenseless. Fate immobilized him, and Tech-9 delivered the final blow, putting an end to the threat once and for all. And coming in at number 1 are the Dark X-Men, who are back again this year. Madeline Pryor's new Dark X-Men are about to show no mercy, and it's gotta be awesome. Along with the Goblin Queen herself, we've also got Maggot, Archangel, Gambit, Gimmick, Azrael, M-Plate, Zero, and Havoc. Basically a dream team of the X-Men's most lethal heroes. So after the massive party called the Hellfire Gala, Madeline Pryor, who's got some history with the X-Men, leads this new strike team featuring some prominent OG X-Men members like Havoc and Gambit, who are back, but they've never teamed up like this before under such dire circumstances. Now, without giving too much away, this team is set to be among the X-Men's brutal incarnations. I mean, just look at the opening sequence of the first issue of this comic series with Madeline Pryor envisioning her global takeover. It's dark. To say it's dark is an understatement. At number 10 are the Titans. After the events of this year's Dark Crisis, which culminated in the disbandment of the Justice League, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman had a pep talk with Nightwing, wherein they basically tell him that it's time to straddle up and step up as the leader of a new team to protect the planet. The Teen Titans! I mean, no, not the teen, just the Titans. Seems like the kiddos are all grown up now. And man, do they grow up fast. It's amazing what a lack of adjectives does to a name, right? Anywho, not only does this team bring back everybody from the original Teen Titans, including Beast Boy, Raven, Starfire, and Cyborg, but we've also got some newcomers like Wonder Girl and The Flash added into the roster. Personally, I was a huge fan of the original animated Teen Titans series, so to see the crew reunited after all these years just brings a tear to my eye. At number 9 is the New Avengers. The New Avengers roster this year is more stacked than it's ever been. It's pretty much the dream team. We've got, obviously, Tony Stark's Iron Man, Thor, Vision, T'Challa's Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, Sam Wilson's Captain America with the wings and everything, and the OP powerhouse of the group herself, Captain Marvel. Now, obviously, we're missing a few key players here, namely the non-powered powerhouses, those being Hawkeye and Black Widow. Also, the OG Cap is missing, who's actually still alive in this narrative. And also, most notably, our big green boy is missing. Now, it seems like the theme here seems to be only heroes who can fly are allowed into this club, with the exception of T'Challa, who's got his own bat planes. Panther planes? Anywho, even though we're missing the green Goliath this time around, we've still got all kinds of muscle with this Avengers lineup. If you're enjoying the video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. It helps us get our video boosted to the algorithm, get seen by more people, and just all around, this is a nice thing to do, so go ahead, do that. At number 8 are the Super Twins. Meet Ortho Ra and Uzul Ra, descendants of an offshoot of Kryptonians called Phalosians. Hope I said that right. Now, these siblings had a tough start. See, the Phalosians were already an alienated race, having been exiled from Krypton and settling on a new homeworld called New Phalosia. Now, sometime later, their folks and older brother, let's say, got eliminated when World attacked the planet, leaving the twins enslaved and isolated from their family. Now, life got really tough for them after that. They wound up living in cells under an arena, part of a race enslaved by Warzone culture. The warlord culture had brainwashed them into thinking that cruelty was strength and kindness was weakness, but now things took a turn when Mongol, the big boss, ordered the two siblings to fight each other to the death. Now they refused, but luckily enough, Superman swooped in to save the day. Long story short, teaching them that real strength comes from protecting others. Now after a crazy breakout and some heroic deeds, eventually they landed on Earth, where Lois Lane and Clark Kent took them in, and voila, these super twins were born. Life on Earth was a bit tricky, especially for Ortho, but they're learning the ropes and becoming quite the heroes.
In its 7 Great Lakes Avengers. Inspired by his newfound power to defy death, Craig Hollis assumed the mantle of Mr. Immortal and embarked on a crusade against crime. Recognizing the advantages of having a team by his side, he placed an advertisement seeking individuals of action. Yes, this dude made an ad for a superhero team. Gathering at a local YMCA, I'm not even joking, Mr. Immortal was joined by Big Bertha, Dr. Sore, Doorman, Flatman, and Leather Boy, which just sounds like my Saturday nights. Together, they established themselves as the Great Lakes Avengers, serving as a sister team to the West Coast Avengers and the Avengers of the East Coast. Taking on various criminal menaces, the Great Lakes Avengers swiftly garnered the attention of Hawkeye and Mockingbird, who were intrigued. The duo journeyed to Wisconsin to investigate these imposter Avengers. However, upon discovering that the team was comprised of an unconventional set of heroes, Hawkeye and Mockingbird took it upon themselves to provide guidance and training. These guys were trained by Hawkeye, the guy with a bow and nothing else. In the early days, the team relied heavily on the money that Ashley Crawford, Big Bertha, was making from modeling to finance their HQ, but yeah, they also made use of her private jet for transportation. God, this whole thing has to be a joke, right? Doorman, Leather Boy. In its 6th, the Justice League of Antarctica. The Injustice League was a group of bumbling villains who found themselves unintentionally regarded as heroes. Initially formed by Major Disaster as a counter-strike force against the newly internationalized Justice League, they clashed briefly with the JLI, but were swiftly defeated. Following their defeat, the Injustice League disbanded, with each member going their separate ways. Through a stroke of luck though, the media mistakenly portrayed them as champions of justice, applauding their supposed reformation. This unexpected turn of events fueled Major Disaster's ambitions, leading him to appeal to Maxwell Lord, the liaison of the Justice League International. Recognizing the potential value in monitoring these comically inept individuals, Lord extended an invitation for them to join the Justice League Antarctica branch, with the primary aim of giving the somewhat dim-witted Nort a purpose. Lord then appointed him as the leader of the team. Under Nort's guidance, the Injustice League embarked on their new role in Antarctica, providing an opportunity for Lord and the Justice League to keep a watchful eye on these unlikely group of characters. But you know what? At least they'll save Happy Feet. Penguins are in Antarctica, right? Or is it that they aren't in Antarctica? I have no idea. Halfway through, in at number 5, Grandpa. Not even joking. Limited information is available about the Global Reaction Agency for Mysterious Paranormal Activity, aka Grandpa, which was just a great acronym, guys. Good job. The organization operates with a small number of field agents stationed worldwide, dedicated to the noble task of saving the world from paranormal stuff. While Grandpa is recognized by governments around the globe, it may not always command the respect it deserves. In one instance, a member of the Japanese self-defense forces considered 2 Grandpa agents to be a more dangerous threat than Terminus himself. In the aftermath of the secret invasion, Grandpa sought the assistance of the mighty Avengers, led by Henry Pym, to address international crises, but in doing so, the agency granted the team immunity from prosecution by Hammer, thereby enabling them to act freely in the face of global emergencies, like paranormal ones, you know, like the Paranormal Activity movies? Yeah, they're all over that. In at 4, Super Buddies. The Super Buddies, a reassembled team of former Justice League International members who were brought together by Maxwell Lord as his robot companion Elron, are just interesting at best. The roster consists of Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Fire, the Elongated Man, his wife Sue, and Captain Atom. Although they once fought side by side, the Super Buddies struggled to find harmony within their ranks. Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, formerly known as the comedic duo Abbott and Costello of the JLI, now engaged in constant arguments, each futilely attempting to prove their own maturity. Unfortunately, their efforts go largely unnoticed because Booster Gold and Ralph Dibny face a lack of credibility among their peers, a fact that no one hesitates to point out. Fire, on the other hand, runs a website called blazingfire.com where she offers paid downloads of images of herself. It's basically the site that shall not be named, but for a superhero. It's a whole thing, okay? Then adding to the mix, Fire convinces Sue that Ralph is below her level of attractiveness, causing Ralph to develop self-conscious behavior, when the dude can literally shape himself into whoever he wants. So I don't understand that. He can literally just give himself a couple extra inches in height and he'd be fine. But you know what? It's a thing. The fact that all of this is happening is just so dumb. I respect it though. And at 3, Chess Set. The Chess Set organization made a sinister attempt to auction off the remains of Auric and Silver, former members of Gamma Flight, along with the body of a civilian scientist. These individuals had undergone experiments by the Sphinx and his agents in their pursuit of superhuman abilities, and the scientist, who claimed to have gained powers from these corpses, had stolen them and put them up for auction under the Chess Set organization. Alpha Flight, the successor to Gamma Flight, along with the assistance of Spider-Man, tracked down the location of the auction, and at the event, the enigmatic Brass Bishop revealed that the energies from the Sphinx's experiments had become infused with the bodies of the siblings and the scientists. They ended up forming like one massive entity during a fight, but then the new entity, formed by Vengeance, sought to eliminate the Chess Set and take revenge. However, Guardian, the leader of Alpha Flight, appealed to that being's sense of honor and persuaded it that killing Chess Set would not honor memories. But you know what? These guys are heroes for making money in this world, okay? They're lifting themselves up by their bootstraps, and I respect it. But ultimately, in number 2, Bizarro League. Okay, I get that it's Bizarro, but since it is Bizarro, they are the opposite of what they are, and since you're trying to see them as villains, that means that they're heroes, okay? When Bizarro 3 inadvertently absorbed radiation from a blue sun, he gained the ability to duplicate himself and create other Bizarro life forms resembling individuals from Earth. Utilizing this ability, he populated a cuboid planet in the Blue Star solar system known as Bizarro World. These replicas, among other numerous duplicates, he created like a Bizarro version of the Justice League. However, the inhabitants of Bizarro World eventually grew disoriented with Bizarro 3's rule, leading a rebellion against him. In this moment, Bizarro 3's friends from the Justice League intervened to assist him, encased within their own hyperbolic chamber headquarters. It's all Bizarro versions. There's Bizarro Superman, Bizarro Flash. There's even a Bizarro Doomsday that they're fighting. It's a whole thing. They're still kind of heroes, and I respect them, kind of. And finally, in number 1, Alpha Fight. Alpha Fight is basically just Canada's version of the Avengers. It's the foremost team of superheroes, established and operated by the Canadian government through Department H, whatever that is. They were formed because of the Superpowers Registration Act in Parliament, which mandated the employment of all superpowered individuals, including mutants, by the government. It's meant to just be the freaking Avengers, but Canadian. I find that offensive. We should have something better.
At number 10 are the New Warriors. By the way, all of my entries today are suggested by you guys in the comments, so this one was suggested by Kevin Murray 8803 and TND Atkinson, so thank you both. The New Warriors were a cool gang of teenage superheroes in the 90s who aren't super well known despite literally being the catalyst for the events of Civil War. See, in Marvel, teen teams aren't as common as in some other superhero universes, especially if they're not made up of mutants. But the New Warriors stood out. They had Night Thrasher, Nova, Speedball, Namorita, Marvel Boy / Justice, Firestar, Rage, and the Silhouette. A bunch of powerful teens doing superhero stuff. People liked them a lot at first. The team had a bunch of awesome characters with unique powers, but later on, things didn't go super well for them. They tried to reboot the group as teen superheroes shooting a reality TV show. The reality show incarnation of the team was the catalyst in the superhero Civil War because in a battle with a group of supervillains while filming season 2 of their TV show, the supervillain Nitro exploded, unaliving most of the team and hundreds of civilians. This was the event that ignited the Superhero Restriction Act and pitted heroes against each other, and in turn paving the way for the Skrulls' secret invasion. At number 9 is the Justice Machine. Thank you to Carbon Dragon for suggesting this one. The Justice Machine is the superhero group of elite law enforcement from another world, Georwell, which initially sounds like this futuristic all-tech wonderland, kind of like Star Trek vibes. But if the name of the planet didn't sound any alarms, it's probably because you haven't read any George Orwell. No, Orwell didn't write this comic, but the world of Georwell, which is initially presented as a utopia, actually takes a lot of inspiration from Orwell's 1984 novel. Think maximum government control, surveillance, and all kinds of propaganda. So after the team does a mission on Earth and learns what actual freedom is like, they start to second guess and realize that they've actually been working for the bad guys all along. Now we've got Challenger the leader, kind of like a Captain America type of strategist despite his declining age. Then there's Blazer, which got flames in flight, Titan, who can grow 30 feet tall, Diviner with this freaky digital mind connection thing, and she's also Challenger's ex. We got Tailsman, who's altering luck and probability, and lastly Demon, who's a martial arts and acrobatics expert. Pretty top-notch team. If you're enjoying the video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing the notification bell. At number 8 are the Champions of Los Angeles, suggested by Rodney Lindsay 849. For a Marvel team I've never heard of, this team is stupendously stacked. Like, even the Avengers ain't got nothing on the Champions of LA. Just check out this roster, okay? We've got Black Widow, Angel, Hercules, Ghost Rider, and freaking Iceman. Are you kidding me? That's like the fantasy superhero dream team right there. Like, seriously, these guys together are no joke. Hell, the first baddie they took on, and thus the reason for their collaboration in their first place, was to team up against Pluto, the literal Greek god of death. Like, Pluto! Seriously, the OG Avengers initially teamed up to fight the Hulk and then Loki, so to say that this team isn't at least on par with the Avengers would be doing them a great disservice. Literally, the only thing this team is missing is a Spider-Man. At number 7 are the Marvel Zombies. In the twisted Marvel Zombies universe, where heroes hunger for the flesh of the living, an unexpected and mind-boggling team unfolded. You see, Galactus, the cosmic devourer of worlds, was rendered into a grotesque figure, a far cry from his formidable 616 incarnation. You see, in this nightmarish reality, Galactus manifested as a corporeal being which is vulnerable to the insatiable appetites of the zombie Avengers. It's kind of weird because these undead mortals eventually feast upon a cosmic entity known for its indomitable might. While it's explained that the Galactus of Earth 2149 was crafted from flesh, a startling departure from what we're used to. Because as he's depicted in 616, Galactus' true form isn't a physical body, but rather abstract energy. The big dude in a funny suit we see is just what our minds can comprehend, like how Pennywise is actually a cosmic spider. So anyway, Mark Miller's zombie series introduced this shocking image of the zombies eating Galactus, leaving subsequent writers little choice but follow suit. As the zombie Avengers devoured Galactus, they unwittingly inherited his purpose, setting off a multiversal buffet until the cosmic meal dwindled and the cosmic power run ran out, returning them to their ravenous roots. At number 6 are the Secret Six, a team once heralded as heroes back in the 60s, but slowly became an unexpected amalgamation of villainy that took the comic world by surprise. Unlike your run-of-the-mill baddie alliances, this group incorporated a diverse roster with Deadshot, Bane, and Harley Quinn, and even the notorious Joker claiming membership. But what's truly shocking is the mysterious puppeteer known as Mockingbird. It's like discovering that Batman has been secretly pulling the strings for the Joker all along. The revelation that the Riddler or Lex Luthor also had their hands in the mix is sort of like unearthing the Pandora's box of villainy. These unexpected team-ups redefine the very essence of villainy and heroism, demonstrating that in the realm of comics, the line between good and evil can blur in the most spine-chilling ways. Speaking of which, at number 5 is Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers. Spider-Man's most terrifying villain is allowed to form his own Avengers? Now that's scary. Following the Skrull invasion, Osborn seized control of S.H.I.E.L.D., manipulating them in the Thunderbolt to create his own sinister version of the Avengers under the guise of the Hammer Agency. What makes this alliance truly spine-chilling is the unsettling cast of heroes, quote-unquote, that Osborn assembled. Bullseye is posed as Hawkeye, Venom as Spider-Man, and Moonstone as Miss Marvel, each of them concealing their secretly manipulative malevolent intentions. Ares and Century, once heroes, found themselves tainted by their affiliation with Osborn's dark agenda. Yet, the most disturbing transformation lay in Daken, who assumed the mantle of Wolverine, and Novarb, who became Captain Marvel. Norman himself adopted the Iron Patriot suit, twisting patriotism into something nightmarish. At number 4 is Magneto and Red Skull. In the convoluted tapestry of comic book alliances, the pairing of Red Skull and Magneto is nothing short of a paradoxical enigma. Two diametrically opposed figures, their shared history is a testament to the complexity in the Marvel Universe. Their initial encounter during the Acts of Vengeance storyline was marked by Magneto's seething contempt for the embodiment of the evil that Red Skull represents. This animosity is well founded, considering Magneto's harrowing experiences during the event from World War II, which shall not be named. Yet, as the narrative threats of Marvel Comics tend to weave, we find Magneto standing shoulder to shoulder with the very antagonist he once despised. In Deadpool eliminates the Marvel Universe again, and in Old Man Logan, these universes both witnessed Magneto's unsettling alliance with Red Skull as they collaborated to further their nefarious ambition. This unlikely partnership serves as a testament to the ever-shifting alliances and allegiances and the moral ambiguities that define the Marvel Universe, where heroes and villains dance on a precarious tightrope of alliances and rivalry. At number 3, the Crime Master and Toxin. Let's take a look at the shocking collaboration between Flash Thompson, known as Agent Venom, and the notorious Crime Master during the Agent Venom storyline. See, at first glance, it seemed like an ordinary showdown between hero and villain, but beneath the surface, a sinister plot was unfolding. The Crime Master, the ever-cunning mastermind, developed a plan that transcended mere villainy. See, he coerced Eddie Brock, the former Venom, into joining his malevolent cause. However, his ambition didn't stop there. Using the formidable symbiote Toxin, the Crime Master forcibly merged it with Eddie, creating an unholy alliance. Together with the villains, they embarked on a campaign of terror, targeting not just Agent Venom, but also his loved one, revealing a level of malevolence that left readers in complete shock. At number 2 is Judge Joker. Now, the scariest villain team-ups often emerge when you least expect them, like when the Joker, infamous for his lack of superpowers, ventured beyond his universe. In the Batman/Judge Dredd's, Joker wields unimaginable powers after crossing into Judge Dredd's realm via a multiversal teleportation belt. He aids Judge Unalive, a malevolent entity seeking to annihilate all life across the multiverse. In return, Judge Unalive imparts sinister abilities upon Joker, transforming him into another dark judge. Joker's newfound power allows him to make heads explode with his laughter, a grotesque and quite fitting ability. Each dark judge gains powers tied to their obsessions, making Joker's lethal laughter a darkly logical choice. He becomes immortal in this form, impervious to harm. However, the Joker's return to his original self is a twist in itself. See, if he had retained these abilities, he'd be unstoppable amidst even DC's mightiest heroes. While it's disappointing for the Clown Prince of Crime, his cinematic presence would dwindle with these R-rated powers, a reminder that sometimes unexpected alliances lead to frankly horrifying outcomes. And at number 1 is the Injustice League. The Injustice League, a formidable gathering of DC's most notorious evildoers, is typically led by the brilliant Lex Luthor, featuring iconic antagonists like the Joker, Deathstroke, Black Manta, Cheetah, and Sinestro. The Injustice League is a force to be reckoned with. However, their effectiveness as a team pales in comparison to their individual endeavors, primarily due to the Justice League's seamless teamwork. Interestingly, for those seeking the Legion of Doom, think of it as a rebranding of the Injustice League. The Super Friends are essentially mirrored in the Justice League, sharing many members and embodying similar dynamics. And so much of what applies to the Injustice League also holds true for the Legion of Doom as well. That's 2 in 1 for you.
Number 10, Batman and Scooby-Doo. Batman and the gang of meddling kids from Mystery Incorporated actually have quite a long history together, teaming up during the days when Batman cartoons and Scooby-Doo cartoons were both being made by Hanna-Barbera for the odd animated special. Years later, this pairing would make its way into the pages of the comics, with the Dark Knight going on several adventures with the gang. It makes a certain kind of sense. I mean, Batman and the gang are all detectives, so they have a lot of intersecting competing interests. The comic book series also does a good job of going with a more Silver Age-y take on Batman, so there isn't as much of a clash in tone when Batman pulls Scooby snacks out of his utility belt. But there is still something kind of strange about the idea that Batman would get so stumped on a case that he would call in not another detective hero like, say, Barry Allen, but would go straight to a bunch of teenage jazz cabbage enthusiasts who live in a van with their dog. Number 9. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Ghostbusters. When Donatello of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles created an interspatial teleportation unit, he asked his brothers Michelangelo, Leonardo, and Raphael to help him test the device's capabilities. They go through the portal with their friends April O'Neil and Casey Jones and discover that the device has transported them to a different New York, the one featured in the Ghostbusters universe. They are immediately put face to face with an evil ghost who of course is immune to their attacks and captures and possesses Casey. Thankfully, they are soon saved by everyone's favorite group of paranormal exterminators, Venkman, Winston, Egon, and Ray, the Ghostbusters. The two groups team up and the combination works better than you might expect. There's a certain joy to seeing Venkman start to get on Raph's nerves, while Winston and Leonardo bond over how difficult it is to be the most normal one on a team. Plus, seeing Leonardo swap his bow staff for a proton pack is something I never knew I always wanted to see. Number 8. Superman and Muhammad Ali. This one is perhaps the most iconic of the weird team-ups ever put to panel. One day, Muhammad Ali is in Metropolis playing basketball with some local kids, and Lois, Jimmy, and Clark set out to get an interview with him. Just as they are about to begin their interview, an alien shows up and requests the greatest champion of Earth to fight in an alien boxing match. He has an armada of ships and is going to blow up Earth if they don't accept the challenge. Clark excuses himself and Superman shows up offering to fight. Ali retorts that he will fight the aliens as he is the greatest fighter on Earth. Superman points out that that is a stupid plan because he's, Superman, but Ali reminds him that he's, Muhammad Ali. The alien tells them that they will fight and the winner will face the alien champion. Ali and Superman go to the Fortress of Solitude to train, and Ali teaches Supes some of his moves before they are interrupted by the aliens, who inform them that the fight will take place on their homeworld, which has a red sun, meaning Superman won't have any powers. Ali points out that Superman is in serious trouble. The two have a boxing match, and Ali KOs Superman after a few rounds and goes on to fight the alien champion. It turns out that Superman and Ali fixed the fight, and while Ali fights, Superman is taking out the alien fleet. Ali wins the match and the Earth is saved. Later on Earth, Ali reveals that he has figured out Superman's secret identity, and the two shake hands as Ali declares, "Superman, we are the greatest." It's a weird story and kinda goofy, but it has become such a classic, and the dynamic between Superman and Muhammad Ali is actually so well done that it is worth reading.
At number 7 is the Anti-Men of Replitech. In 1983, the Justice League of America introduced the Anti-Men of Replitech, a bunch of hybrids made by a struggling company called Replitech. They were humans mixed with animals, created by Dr. Lovecraft, chief scientist. The company's boss, Rex Rogan, thought that turning this team into animal-human combos was a smart idea. He became Maximus Rex, a lion-headed dude, and led these hybrids to steal stuff to save the company. But here's the kicker, he made them fight to their demise for entertainment like gladiators. Now surprisingly, these anti-men were tough cookies. At number 6 is the Killer Elite. The Elite burst onto the scene in Justice League America number 105 to 106 during the Underworld Unleashed storyline. Basically, a demon named Neron goes around offering people power boosts in exchange for their souls. The idea was to level up these old school villains, but it didn't really work out because their power-ups weren't very powerful. Now, Killer Elite was a team of renowned assassins. We got Deadshot, Merlin, Bolt, Chiller, and Deadline. Now here's the kicker, they didn't seem to get any power upgrades whatsoever. Instead, they just sold their souls for no apparent reason. Each of the characters was pretty cool individually, but putting them in a team together just kind of felt too much. Plus, Deadshot works better as an anti-hero instead of a straight-up villain. Long story short, the team was messy, and it felt like a waste of good characters, and it didn't really stick around for long. At number 5 is Crime Wave. In 1972, comic book writer Steve Englehart came up with a unique supervillain team called Crime Wave to battle Captain America. This team didn't have a flashy name or a grand plan. Instead, it was a mix of different villains called the Porcupine, Plant Man, Eel, and the Scarecrow. They were brought together by Viper, a bigger villain in the Marvel Universe, and led by somebody called the Cowled Commander. Now, what made this team stand out was the twist at the end. As it turned out, the Cowled Commander wasn't some evil mastermind. He was actually a police sergeant from New York City, creating the crime wave to show that there was a need for a stronger police force to handle superhuman threats. At number 4 is the Avant-Garde. The painter was this crazy, super powerful villain who could essentially bring his paintings to life, so anything he put on a canvas would just pop out and wreak havoc. First appearing as a Human Torch villain, he would later form a squad and go up against our friendly neighborhood webslinger, roping in 2 struggling artists, Spark and Bora, and together they amped their abilities with some ritual thing, becoming the Avant-Garde. They didn't just go up against small fries though, as they took on Spider-Man and a bunch of big shot heroes from New York. The Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the New Warriors, even X-Factor jumped onto the showdown. The best part was probably how it brought Spider-Man, Iceman, and Firestar together. It was a crossover for the ages. At number 3, the Awesome Threesome. The Awesome Threesome burst onto the superhero scene in 1967's Aquaman number 36. It's essentially a trio of robots led by Torpedo Man, zipping around at super speed in torpedo form. Joining him were the Claw, a powerhouse fighter, and Magneto. No, not the Marvel one. Just another evil superhuman who wielded mastery over magnetism. Yeah, DC named their guy Magneto 4 years after Marvel's famous villain. Talk about creativity, am I right? Aquaman and their crew faced off against these mechanical misfits, only to uncover a surprising truth, that the robots were puppets controlled by an alien. See, this banished extraterrestrial hoped that his robot army would liberate him from Earth. Spoiler alert, that plan flopped. Unfortunately, despite their awesomeness, this villain team vanished after their debut. Torpedo Man scored a cameo later on, but the trio never reunited. At number 2 is Death Throes. In the world of comics, there is this epic storyline where Hawkeye, the sharpshooting hero, faced off against some seriously unique baddies. Essentially, a pair of juggling villains, Bombshell and Oddball, giving him a run for his money. Now, you might think that 2 juggling-themed villains are a bit much, but the creator, Mark Gruenwald, had a different idea. He thought, why stop at 2 when you could have more? So, in another comic called Captain America number 317, these juggling maestros were part of a bigger, crazier group known as the Death Throes. The Death Throes weren't just about juggling balls, they included ringleader, Tenpin, and Knick-Knack. Their mission was to break Crossfire out of jail, cause some chaos, and then take on Captain America and Hawkeye. Spoiler alert, they don't succeed. At number 1 is Big Bang. You could tell the writers were really struggling for new ideas with this one. So in 1967, a new set of baddies hit the comic scene in the Atom number 34. Meet the Big Bang, a crew of supervillains whose names all had big in them. First up, there's Big Head, the super brainy, and then there's Big Bertha, who's crazy strong. Next, there's Big Ben, a pro at timing robberies. There's also Big Shot with a special pew-pew, and Big Cheese, who makes deadly cheeses. Oh god. And then there's Big Deal, who's a card sharp. Their thing is that they steal big stuff, like a giant emerald, a giant coin, and a stamp in Ivytown. Atom dealt with them without much fuss. Now, not surprisingly, these villains vanished after that issue, probably not cut out for the major leagues. Funny how these big bad guys came and went without making a huge impact. At number 10 is Gas Gang, a gang made up of my favorite state of matter. In 1963's Metal Men number 6, something wild happened. Dr. Will Magnus, the creator of the Metal Men, got zapped by cosmic rays during a space mission. This turned him into a robot, but with a twist. You see, he lost all of his feelings. He went all nope on saving another ship in trouble, and when the Metal Men didn't follow orders, Magnus went all villain mode on them. Now they locked him up in their base, giving him access to his robot making tools, so he creates the Gas Gang. Robots made of gases like oxygen, helium, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and chloroform. These gas-based baddies caused trouble until the Metal Men found a way to stop them. But here's a twist again, taking down the Gas Gang actually turned Magnus back into a human, somehow. At number 9 is the Assembly of Evil. During a big crossover called the acts of vengeance, a group of big shot bad guys like Dr. Doom, Magneto and Kingpin, and the Mandarin and the Red Skull all joined forces. But here's a twist. They were being tricked by Loki the entire time. Their job was to make chaos by getting lesser known villains to mess with heroes who had no clue about these bad guys. In one comic called Cloak and Dagger #9, the Jester got a chance from Dr. Doom to build his own bad guy squad called the Assembly of Evil. Now the problem was nobody really took Jester seriously. He tried to recruit some heavy hitters like the Hulk's enemy the Leader, but that didn't pan out too well. He did get some others like the X-Men villains Furnace and even borrowed a Hulk robot from Dr. Doom. Now the wildest part is that Jester thought Cloak and Dagger were enemies of Spider-Man, so he asked them to join. They pretended to be in on it, but actually helped the Avengers when the Assembly attacked them, messing up the bad guys' plans. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. It helps us out and get the video seen by more people, and it's free, so I appreciate it. At number 8 is the Weathermen.
Ooh, intimidating.
The Weathermen, making their debut in 1981's Avengers number 210, they came toe-to-toe with a government supercomputer that was stationed on a space station, originally used by the notorious Egghead. This supercomputer somehow gained a mind of its own, shifting from just forecasting weather to actually wanting to control it. To execute its devious plans, the computer brainwashes 5 meteorologists working at the station, morphing them into the Weathermen. Each of these meteorologists gets kitted out with heavy-duty armor and hovercraft, dispatched globally to stir up chaotic weather patterns as committed by the AI computer. Amidst this meteorological chaos, the Avengers swoop in to tackle the Weathermen head on. But it's the underrated hero Jocasta who takes a direct route to the space station. And she not only rejects a robot's proposal, because she's quite popular among the robot population, but also manages to erase the computer's newfound sentience.
Number 7, the Avengers meet David Letterman. In Avengers number 239, Wonder Man is having a bit of a problem. He has been trying to make it as an actor, but it hasn't been working out. His agent is aware of his status as a reserve Avenger and books Wonder Man on David Letterman, claiming that he will be accompanied by some of the other Avengers. Wonder Man reaches out to Vision, who arranges for himself, Black Panther, Hawkeye, Beast, and Black Widow to join Wonder Man on the late-night talk show appearance. The villain, Fabian Stanowitz, otherwise known as the Meccano Marauder, sees the promo and decides that he will also be attending. The Avengers go on the show, and Dave interviews the group, getting the bombshell that Beast is leaving the Avengers to start the Defenders, but the interview is interrupted by an attack from Fabian's machines while Paul Schaefer keeps the band playing to keep the crowd from panicking. Fabian sits down for an interview with Letterman, surrounding them with a force field so they won't be interrupted by the Avengers or the machines. Dave then uses his classic giant doorknob prop to knock out the villain, saving the day. Wonder Man is thrilled that his heroic exploits will be shown on television, but when the show is set to air, it is interrupted by a special news bulletin and no one gets to see it. Number 6, the X-Men meet the crew of the Enterprise. Captain's log. Stardate 4740.5. The crew of the Enterprise came across an odd alien ship. They scanned it for life and saw that it was carrying 7 life forms that sensors indicated were near human. Before more information could be gathered, the ship exploded, and a giant creature calling himself the Gladiator appeared and punched the Enterprise. As the engineer, Mr. Scott, attempted to repair the damage to the shields, a group of stowaways who had beamed off the destroyed ship at the last moment came aboard. They called themselves the X-Men. So the X-Men had set off to save the galaxy, and were now hiding on the Enterprise, very confused as to how they had ended up in the future. Gambit was injured, and Beast took him to the ship's sickbay to find treatment. It was here that Dr. McCoy met Dr. McCoy. The remaining X-Men were discovered by Mr. Spock, who incapacitated Wolverine with the Vulcan nerve pinch and took the team to meet Captain Kirk so they could work together to defeat the villains. This is a fun story filled with some cool moments like the aforementioned Spock and Wolverine fight, as well as some fun character moments like Kirk trying to hit on Jean Grey. But the X-Men and Enterprise crew are an odd pair to pitch together, and the entire affair does feel pretty weird. Number 5, the Punisher meets meets Slim Shady. Getting into the really weird team-ups, we have the time that Frank Castle met Marshall Mathers. In this story, Eminem is leaving a concert with his security when they come across a strange man in a skull shirt in the alley. They pull their guns on him and get absolutely blown away while M makes a break for it. He's rescued by his childhood friend, the Barracuda, who helps him hide from Castle. When Punisher gets too close, Slim Shady beats him up and shoots him. Barracuda then takes out Eminem, and when he wakes up, he's on a boat tied back to back with the Punisher. Punisher explains that he was trying to protect Eminem and only took out his bodyguards because they pulled guns on him and probably all had rap sheets anyways. Barracuda explains that the Parents Music Council has hired him to kill Shady because they think his music is corrupting the youth. He throws M off the side of the boat, but the water is frozen and he manages to get away. He finds an ice fisherman, takes his chainsaw, and returns to the boat to save the Punisher. After freeing Frank, Punisher leaves Eminem stranded on the ice with a phone to call for help as he sets off to take out the Parents Music Council. After all, hiring a contract killer is a serious crime. What? This book is insane! Not just for the premise, but the fact that the Punisher doesn't do anything except get beaten up and later rescued by Eminem. But it isn't the weirdest Punisher crossover. More on that later. Number 4, Spider-Man and the cast of SNL. Live from New York, it's Spider Day Night Live! Starring Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Jane Curtin, Garrett Morris, Bill Murray, Lorraine Newman, and Gilda Radner. In Marvel Team-Up number 74, Spider-Man got to team up with the classic Saturday Night Live cast in one of the weirdest team-ups in the Wall Crawlers history. Peter and MJ are attending a filming of Saturday Night Live, but little do they know that the show is about to be interrupted by the Silver Samurai, whose magic ring has been sent to John Belushi by accident due to his SNL Samurai character being mistaken for the Silver Samurai. Thugs try to take over the show, but the cast keeps the show going while taking out the thugs with the help of Spider-Man, while the two samurai face off backstage. It is extra weird because the celebrity host is Stan Lee, and the SNL cast are dressing up as Marvel characters. But in a world where Marvel heroes are real, what exactly is Stan Lee famous for? Number 3, Jimmy Olsen and Don Rickles. In Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen number 141, written by Jack Kirby of all people, Jimmy teams up with the Golden Guardian and Goody Rickles, the superhero who just happens to look like the insult comic and Mr. Potato Head actor Don Rickles. They are poisoned by Intergang and have to find a cure before they explode. They end up at an office where the real Don Rickles is hanging out and just starts slowly going nuts as superhero hijinks take place around him. Eventually the heroes are cured, but Rickles is taken away by the police after claiming that he is going to explode in an effort to get away from Jimmy and his gang. It is a difficult story to follow and wouldn't make this list if it weren't for the weird detail of Don Rickles having a superhero who is not related to him, but is named Goody Rickles and just happens to look exactly like him. That's just all kinds of strange. Number 2, The Punisher meets Archie. In a crossover that started out as a joke between the publishers of the two characters, a criminal who looks remarkably like Archie is being chased by the Punisher. He escapes to Riverdale, and the Punisher pursues him there. Archie is up to his usual hijinks, trying to date both Betty and Veronica, when a bunch of feds, mistaking him for his criminal doppelganger, take him away. They are attacked by the Punisher, who realizes his mistake and goes after the double, who has taken Veronica to the town's sock hop. Punisher goes to the dance and is mistaken for a chaperone by the teachers. Things go off the rails when the villain takes Veronica hostage and a shootout breaks out at the dance. The bad guy gets away with Ronnie, and Archie has to team up with Frank to take him out. Archie starts keeping a war journal, and Frank gets a nice Riverdale sweater as a gift, and together they save Veronica and stop the villain, who they tie to a giant balloon and let fly away, presumably so he will fly into the air and lose oxygen and die. As if all of this wasn't weird enough, the story ends with Professor X informing Wolverine that he has to go after the most dangerous mutant alive, Jughead. Number 1, Green Lantern and Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders has shown up in DC Comics stories a few times, having traveled the multiverse and hired Captain Cold and Mirror Master to work in his restaurants. But his weirdest story is when he teamed up with Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern. In this story, the Colonel is working with Ferris Air to test that his new packaging for his Zinger chicken sandwich will protect it for interstellar travel, as he wants to bring his food across the universe. He enlists the help of Green Lantern to help him deliver the food, and Hal agrees. As Hal tells him, every member of the Green Lantern Corps is working on this project. Meaning somewhere a planet is being attacked by Darkseid and the Lanterns are delivering chicken sandwiches. The sandwiches are all stolen by the Orange Lantern Larfleeze, and Hal creates a KFC themed Green Lantern ring for the Colonel so they can go after the sandwiches. Sanders attacks Larfleeze with a drumstick construct, and Larfleeze admits that the Zinger chicken sandwich is the only thing that has ever satisfied his unending longing and hunger. Sanders uses his ring to create the first KFC on the planet Okara and lets Larfleeze sign on as a franchisee, assuming that the Orange Lantern can complete the training program to get his cooking to the Colonel's strict standards. This book is so weird. It's like those old Twinkie ads where Flash would defeat Weather Wizard with the delicious taste of Hostess Twinkie cakes, but instead of being one page long, it's the entire comic. So weird.